Okay, we're back. Let's move on to the next topic. We're going to talk about comparing and ordering decimals now. We went over it with fractions, and so now we're going to do it with decimals. So if you'll notice, I've got a couple of different models up here. So we're going to compare decimals based on pictures. Okay, so based on the last lesson, lesson 11-1, we talked about looking at decimals based on a picture. So if you'll notice this picture right here, this one actually has the rods. So you have 10 in there, right? So it's going to be in the tenths place. So if you notice how many are shaded in here, we've got 2 rods. So the 2 rods, so that's 0.2. All right, so let's look at this one next to it. There are a few more colored in, and you can't quite see that. I've got 7 of those rods colored in out of, again, 10. So I've got 0.10 spot, and I've got a 7 in there because it's 7/10. Now, if you look at those two, let's compare them. First of all, we'd notice 2 is a whole lot smaller than 7. We do notice that. But let's actually make sure, before we start putting in a greater than or less than sign, let's make sure we look at the picture. Look at the amount of space that's shaded in over here. There's only 2 rods. Look at the amount of space that's shaded in here. You've got 7 shaded in. So you want to look at how much is more. Which one of these has more space shaded in? And if you'll notice, the 7 does, so our sign would be less than. So 2/10 is less than 7/10. All right, next example. Let's look at, again, we're doing the rods, so you're going to be dealing with the tenths spot. Okay, in this one here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rods colored in, so it would be 6/10. This one, we only have 3/10. Now, if you look at it, this is a whole lot more space colored in than these 3. So in that case, that's more space colored in, so our 6 is bigger. So it would be 6/10 is greater than 3/10. Okay, let's go to the models that are using the hundreds, the base. So we're dealing with the hundredths places in here. All right. So how many different little squares are we dealing with here? Well, we've got 1 full rod, so that's 10, and then we've got 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So we've got 15 hundredths. 15 are colored in out of a total of hundreds, so it's 15 hundredths. So we've got here, again, 100, but we've got 2 rods completely colored in, so we've got 20. So we've got a 2 and then a 0. All right, so if you look at how much space is colored in, if you'll notice this and this has more space, therefore the greater than sign would go towards the 0.20 hundredths, and therefore 15 hundredths is less than 20 hundredths. And again, let's look at another example of the hundredths. In this case, we have the rods are fully colored in, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so it's 80 hundredths. And then we've got 8 full colored in, but we've got 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, so we've got 85. Now, how many, this one versus this one, which one has more space colored in? Well, of course, you've got 80 with the extra 5, so that means the greater than sign would go towards the 85 hundredths. So 80 hundredths is less than 85 hundredths. What happens if we crossed over, if we compared the tenths with the hundredths? So let's go ahead and take, let's take that one. And let's take this one. Oh no, I'll take this one next to it. I got that other one doubled down. All right, so in this case, I'm dealing with the tenths. So I have 3 rods colored in, so it'd be 3/10. In this one, hundredths, so I'm going to be doing 2 place values, and I've got 8, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85. So let's just look at the picture. Look at how much space is colored in here and how much space is colored in. We want to see which one has the greater amount of space colored in. We do know that 85 is a whole lot more than 3. So we're going to say that 3/10 is less than 85 hundredths. All right, so I want to actually ask you guys to look at each one of these problems or each one of these equations without looking at the models. So if we're just going to look at it, I double taped that one. All right, there we go. So if we're just going to look at that, 2/10 is less than 7/10. What do you see? The 2 is smaller than the 7. So you could basically look at these and say, the place values, look at the tenths place value and compare the numbers. And then and then if you have something with the hundredths, and you can look at the hundredths place value. So in this case, tenths place, we're comparing 2/10 place. 6 is bigger than 3, therefore the greater than sign goes over. When you're dealing with the thousands or the hundreds, you've got 1 and 2. You've got a difference there. So that 2 is bigger, therefore the greater than sign would point in that direction. And then you've got your 2 eighths are the same, but then if you go to the next place value, you notice that 5 is bigger than the 0. And that's the direction that your greater than sign goes on. The next video will cover putting them in order from greatest to least or least to greatest. Thanks.